Coming up on this episode of The Power of Real Estate.
We're going to talk today about how I sold an $800,000 home in less than 2 weeks. Ow!
I'm just trying to do the math in my head, figuring out what the commission is on that.
Yeah, well, you can do the math because it's all right.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
You go, girl.
Yeah.
She spent over 20 years as a successful realtor and realtor coach, recipient of over 40 sales, leadership, and literary awards from the legendary Music Row in Nashville. This is The Power of Real Estate with Michelle Moore.
Hello. All right, welcome to The Power of Real Estate, baby. All right, so we got a great show planned for you today. Producer Jimmy here is in the house with me. Hello, Producer Jimmy.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
Good.
I'm Joey from Friends. How you doing?
Hey, I work for Joey. I figure I'd try it.
Right? Yeah. All right. So if you're struggling with your real estate business, stay tuned, but also make sure you got a free copy of Selling Simplified. It's my award-winning book, 55 Fast Tips to Jumpstart Your Real Estate Business. So if you want to get down to business, you better get a copy. You can get a free copy. All you got to do is pay for shipping and handling, which is $4.95. Go to my website, realestatecoachingsimplified.com. Very simple. I always say the most complicated thing about my business is my website domain name, realestatecoachingsimplified.com. Ain't so simple, but that was where I ended up having to go.
That is ironic.
Yeah, I know. As I always say, it's the most complicated thing about my business, and it is. Get your free copy. You can sign up there to get it, and we ship it to you, so that way you get a cold, hard copy of the book in your hands, and it takes about 2.5 hours to read.
And I've got a tagline for your website.
Oh, yeah.
Long name, amazing results.
I like it. Out of this world.
In a world.
That's right. Okay, so we're going to talk today about how I sold an $800,000 home in less than 2 weeks. Ow! All right, you ready?
I'm just impressed I'm just trying to do the math in my head, figuring out what the commission is on that.
Yeah, well, you can do the math because it's all right.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
You go, girl.
Yeah. So here's what happened. So recently, in the last few months, I don't do a lot of real estate, as people know, but I have some people, that call me that say, hey, look, you've always done our real estate stuff. You got to do this for us. And, will you take care of us? So what happened was I have somebody that used to be a preferred business partner with our radio show. He had a wife who was friends with an agent. And so they listed it, with the friend. It was listed for 3 months and it didn't sell. He called me and said, I'm losing patience with this situation. I'm fixing to take over, and this is, what I want to do. I wanted to list it with you in the first place, but now it's like I'm insisting, So I ended up listing the property, and when the other agent withdrew it, we did some changes. We made some big changes because the house was not right. Okay. Mm-hmm. So this is how I sold an $800,000 home in less than 2 weeks that had really been on the market for 3 months and had not been able to sell previously. So we're going to talk about 5 key things that I did. So the first one was I had to confirm that it was priced right. A lot of times you think, okay, so, I bet she reduced the price of the home. No, it actually had been reduced already. And now they started out too high, and now the home was actually listed at the correct price. So we pulled the home off. Obviously, we didn't pull the home off. They canceled their agreement with, the other agent. And so we kept the home off because of number 2, which was we had to, when talking about how I sold a home, an $800,000 home in less than 2 weeks, while the home was off, we kept it off so that number 2 is we got the right repairs done. We got the home ready, okay? What happened was the garage, for example, was a complete mess. The walls, just it's 5-year-old home, absolutely gorgeous from the street, but on the inside, there were some issues. And one of the issues was the garage had crap everywhere. I just say it, but there was just junk clutter, like any other garage. The walls needed to be repainted. It's an $800,000 home. And so, but what the seller said was that they had been told by their agent, previous agent, that, oh, yeah, people tend to be more forgiving when it comes to the garage. It's okay. It can be in whatever shape. That is just absolutely not true. So here's what I liken that to. I liken that to, say, going to Hobby Lobby. A lot of people will get this analogy if you've ever shopped at Hobby Lobby. So you go to Hobby Lobby and you find this piece of artwork. They've got 50% off sale on all the artwork, which is about every third week. That's what they do. And so that's great. So I'm going to get this artwork. I love it. And then you notice there's a little bitty scratch on the frame. And you're like, oh, man, there's a scratch. It's dinged up some, So now I got to go and see if they got like 3 more of these that I can shuffle through and see if one's not scratched up. So you got a $50 piece of artwork that's now half off at $25, and you're digging through to see if you can find one that's not scratched up. Now, Hobby Lobby, by the way, has done a fantastic job. They've started putting protective stuff on their frames and stuff, so now it's much easier to find something but that's not dinged up. But it used to be kind of, common practice that it was almost a miracle to find something that didn't need to be, touched up or something, or that wasn't scratched. So here's what I said. So if someone's going to dig through the shelves to find something that doesn't have a scratch on it that's only $25, what do you think someone says about an $800,000 home?
They don't want any scratches.
They're looking for as perfect as possible.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as a perfect home. There is no such thing as forgiving. I don't know what all that's about with the forgiving of the garage, but no, no, and no. They had some water damage in front of the refrigerator in the kitchen. We all know that the kitchens and the baths sell homes. Well, they had some water damage in the front of the refrigerator. So what apparently had happened was that, kids that were walk by or whatever, they'd, get ice and an ice cube would drop to the floor and they never picked it up. And so over 5 years, it ended up causing damage to the hardwoods. Mm-hmm. And so it was being brought up in the showings and everything. It was consistently becoming, was consistently an issue, of course, because we all know kitchens and bathrooms sell a home. This is in the middle of the kitchen. Like you cannot, front and center, you cannot avoid it. And so, we ended up tearing out, or we're not tearing out, but we did tear out all the shoe mold, and we refinished all of the hardwoods on the first floor because the flooring was it was actually a pre-finished wood, but it had been discontinued by the manufacturer. So, but it could be refinished one time. So we refinished all the floor, sanded, and so moved out all the furniture, all that. Well, the people had halfway moved out already, and so half the home was empty. Beautiful photos online, but when you came and saw the home, half the home was empty. And but like there was stuff all in the closet, so it was like, is the house empty or is the house not empty? Like what is going on? One room was completely untouched, one was half furnished, one was empty completely. It was just a hodgepodge of a mess. And so once we refinished the floors, replaced all brand new shoe molding, painted all that, and got the garage repainted and emptied out and all that kind of stuff, we hired a stager to come in, which is number 3. So how I sold a home at $800,000 home in less than 2 weeks that had been on the market for 3 months and couldn't sell. So number 3 was we then staged the home. So I called an agent. My stager was backed up. So I called an agent that I coach and said, hey, I know that you sell in this area at this price point sometimes. So do you happen to know anyone? She said yes. And her number 1 pick was my number 1 pick who happened to be scheduled out for months. And so I was like, oh, goodness, that's not going to work. So do you have anyone else? She says, well, I got a backup, in stager. And so I went to that stager's Instagram page. Mm-hmm. Oh, total Chip and Joanna Gaines, which this house, by the way, looked like Chip and Joanna Gaines had not only designed the home, built the home, but also staged the home by the time I got done.
It's a shame, but I know who they are.
Yeah, right. And so they're huge, right? And the home is so total Chip. The designs and stuff, the owners did a phenomenal job with all of it. So anyway, so what we did was we got the home staged, and it was ready to show. Then I had professional photography and videography done, and then I asked for, and this is a great thing to ask for in all of your listings, ask the photographer to do some photos that I call details photos. What I mean by that is some architectural details. Maybe it's something special about, like they had a copper sink in the kitchen, so he did a close-up of that, or maybe it's the backsplash, or some kind of architectural details that you can use as well. And you want to use some of those. Our local MLS allows up to 30 photos, and so I use all 30 photos. And so, we put up 30 photos, professionally done photos with descriptions that are that include build the dream words and all that, so that way you can then kind of stir up emotion. Because think about it, when you're looking at buying a home, do you read everything that you can get your hands on about the home? Yes, you do. That you're going to, before you see the house, if someone's excited about it, they're going to look up and down that MLS sheet, forwards, backwards, sideways, up, down, every way around. And if they're excited about that home, trying to figure out if they want to go see it. And learn more, the most they can about it, especially if they're excited about it. And so you want to give them You want to stir so much emotion. My thing is, I always say, my goal is to make sure that a prospect says to their agent, I can't decide on a home. Like, I cannot buy a home until I see this home. So we're talking about how I sold an $800,000 home in less than 2 weeks. That's number 4. So professional photography and videography.
Real quick question. Did you guys stage the garage?
We did not stage the garage, but it was completely empty and it was completely painted. And the ironic thing is, in over 20-something years of real estate at this point experience and being in with builders and buyers and sellers and garages through the years, it's so funny because I had 2 different people at the open houses say to me, wow, this is a great garage. And I thought, this is crazy. It's an empty garage. But it had some extra windows. It had a pedestrian door with a window. The garage doors had windows. It had windows on the front. Like, it's a 3-car garage.
I was going to say it's big, too. That
yeah, it was a
helps.
3-car garage,
Yeah.
you know, but there was no, it wasn't like it had epoxy on the floor and you could eat off the floor. It was just, but the walls were beautiful. Like, the paint colors were right, you know, everything was right. And so we were actually, one of the people, I was out in the garage with them because they wanted to know a paint color that was inside the home. So I said, hey, the paint cans are in the garage. Let's go out there and we'll figure it out. So we did. And they were looking around and go, man, this garage is great. It's real bright, you know. And so, but it was not builder white on the walls. It was a, you know, very hip color and it looked like Chip and Joanna Gaines had, you know, picked the paint color even. We're talking about how I sold a home, $800,000 home in less than 2 weeks. And so the last one was, the fourth one that I did was I had open houses, and I promoted it on Facebook, Instagram, in the private realtor groups, letting real estate agents know. I sent it out to my email database, and then I also put a sign out and then kept that sign out. So when I did 2 Sundays in a row. When I left the first open house, I'd already decided I was going to hold it open again the next weekend, and so I just left the open house signs out. And also, when I did the open houses, I showed up with balloons, tied those to the, you know, red balloons that match my branding for my signs anyways. And so I've got balloons so people, when they're driving by, know for sure it's open. And so the signs have the balloons on it as well. And then I kept that rider out and updated MLS. Like, as soon as I left that first open house, I went straight back to my home office, went into MLS, and by 7 o'clock that night, I already had it showing that it was going to be open the next week as well. So just, you know, maximum exposure as much as possible. Then number 5, so how I sold an $800,000 home in less than 2 weeks. Number 5 was I was able to negotiate well. And so I really played that situation very well as far as through the negotiations. They made a little bit of too low of an offer, in my opinion. And so we didn't do a price reduction. It was priced appropriately. It's just that there's 7 P's of sales and marketing, and one of them is presentation. It was the presentation that was off, but then also you got to promote, and then when you promote and you do get a deal, you got to be able to negotiate. And so I was able to negotiate to the point that my sellers got 97.8% of their list price. I was 2.2% off from the list price. And when you're talking about an $800,000 home, that's amazing. In my opinion, way too low of an offer. But we were able to negotiate, and there were some things that I did that helped to negotiate and get everybody kind of in line. One of them was I let him know, hey, the sellers are really struggling. The offer is really just too low. And so they're like, is your buyer even serious? Because they're like, we're not even sure we're going to counteroffer. And so I called him and kind of felt that out and said, look, you know, because they're just thinking like, are they even serious because it's so low? They're like, well, we'll just come back at full price because we don't even know what to do with this low offer. And so I encouraged him, you know, hey, did you run the comps? You know, he's like, oh, no, we know. Look, just encourage them, do everything you can to get them to counteroffer. So I got him on board with a counteroffer, you know, and so a few hours before we finally counteroffered. And quite frankly, that was part of the strategy. And so let him know, we know the house was priced right, and we know that your offer is too low, like way too low. So don't think we're even going to meet you in the middle, because it ain't going to happen. But you don't call people and tell them that, which is, so we were, you know, we played up the whole, what do we do? So I was like, well, let me call the buyer's agent. And so I played that up and said, you know, hey, So my sellers are struggling. This is why you haven't heard from me, and this is what's going on. And I'm doing an open house, so I'm at the open house right now. So hey, if it's a little bit before you hear from me, just know that we're probably going to be really tight with the deadline and calling back and counter offering. But if they counter offer. And so I got it to where that helped him to understand where those sellers were coming from, which is, we know the home is priced right. We're not desperate to sell the home, and you're not going to just steal the house from us. Mm-hmm. But all of that helped and get him on board to help get us where we needed to be. And so, like I said, ended up at 97.8% of the sales price when you're at an $800,000 home and selling it in less than 2 weeks. That's a great situation. So, all right, well, we hope this has helped you think about some different things that could help you sell your listings that maybe haven't sold, been on the market a little while, or keep them from being on the market a little while. These are things that you can do ahead of time. If it works for an $800,000 home, it's going to work for a $300,000 home, or more or less or whatever. These are all fantastic principles. They led to success in less than 2 weeks, and we're talking about through the holiday season. We actually listed the home a couple of weeks before Thanksgiving, and my people got all of their money before Christmas. So not only did they close before Christmas, but they actually got their proceeds before Christmas, and so it worked out fantastic. And I say anytime you can sell a home in that time frame and still close by the end of the year is nothing short of a Christmas miracle. Mm-hmm. And so, all right, well, we'll see you next time on The Power of Real Estate with Michelle Moore.
Realtors, if you're ready for the latest tools, scripts, and techniques, visit realestatecoachingsimplified.com. We'll see you next time on The Power of Real Estate with Michelle Moore.